We're joined by Alan Kinsgley-Perkins of Kinsgley-Perkins Limited.
That's right.
But Alan comes with, well, I know this is going to be a very special episode because Alan comes with what we really believe to be between 30 and 40 years experience in sales operations at companies such as IBM and Citigroup. And we also have what Alan calls Scorpio, for those people watching here, which is a sales operations framework.
Exactly.
That we're going to be going into more detail.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming in.
Okay. So let me just give a slight background. I emigrated to Australia paying in £10, so I was known as a £10 POM.
Right. I think I heard about this.
And then what it was, you got to pay £10, we had to stay 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was no problem. So I went to Australia.
And so, just for which year was this?
Yeah, this was 1974, that is, not 1874. So I joined an insurance company at the time, selling domestic insurance, which is household insurance, houses, etc., in Perth. The problem we had was when we sold the policy, you were given a 30-day cover note, and the policy should be with you within 30 days. Unfortunately, I was so good at selling that I sold so many policies and added policies like motor vehicles, etc., that the back office couldn't keep up. So we investigated it because customers started complaining they weren't getting their policy, etc. So we started to investigate, and we looked at the operations, which is now known as sales operations, and it was a mess.
So was this one of the first instances of official sales operations?
Yes. In those days, it used to be called organisational methods.
Yeah.
We analysed the way business was done, and it was a mess. So I came up with a new way of doing business, new way of issuing policies, which meant they could walk away with the policy that day. So it took off. Over about 5 months, we increased our sales by about 600%, and we kept going. Head office heard about this in Melbourne. They said, what are those lunatics in Perth up to? So they sent a couple of guys over. They saw what we were doing. We did a flowchart, all the processes we flowcharted on the wall using ASME flowcharting symbols. Wow, they couldn't believe it. So I was then moved to head office in Melbourne, and I introduced the same sales operations model across the 32 offices across Australia.
So you moved out of sales and then officially into...
That's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, officially into sales operations. And I never looked back. I never did sales again. And we tidied up the sales operations. We became the hub, if you like, in the process, and we monitored and watched the business grow. In those days, it was really over-the-counter type stuff. And then we got to remember, it was called insurance over the phone. You could actually arrange insurance over the phone, which is fantastic news. But anyway, that was then. So we changed the company round, and we really excelled. And then my wife said to me, I'm unhappy in Australia, I want to go back to England. So we came back to England, where Reuters, the news agents, had just gone public, and they wanted to sell their products rapidly, but they didn't have the infrastructure in the business to process the orders. So I was called in to work with them across I think it was about 12 countries across Europe, to put in a sales operations function, which we set up based in London with a sub office in Switzerland. And we ran that, and the company took off, and we became the centre of the hub for following the transactions right the way through.
And then since then, you've been consulting with sales organisations.
Exactly. So since that was Reuters, and then there was a big problem in the UK due to the RM and Black Thursday, for those old enough to remember. So I went to the Middle East, where I joined Citigroup as their quality director. One day they said, we want to bring in, for our sales force, we want to bring in proactive selling, and we want to pay commission. Can you please come up with a strategy, a process, etc., for us to do that? So I set about coming up with a modelling tool, so I could measure what we sold, how much we sold, when we sold it, how many meetings we required to sell it, what products we were going to sell, who the target audiences were, and we put it all together in a big business model. We worked out the compensation required to pay the staff, so we didn't pay them too much and didn't pay them not enough. And over 6 months, our sales went through the roof again. Actually took off. We couldn't believe it. The branch structure and the telephone structure and the ATM structure just changed dramatically across the Saudi Arabia. So people in London, our EMEA head office in London, saw this and thought we'd gone mad. So there's something wrong with the figures. The figures are too great. They can't be saying that much. So they came and saw us. And I showed them the model, showed them this here. And they said, this is fantastic, Alan. We can't believe this. Come and present it to London. So I went to London. I presented the proposals, etc. The process, everything we were doing. I said, we can't believe this. I got invited to New York to present in New York. And I was told, this is now the Citigroup sales operation model. Go back to EMEA and implement it across the 16 countries. So I spent the next 4 years traveling 16 countries across EMEA, implementing it. Sales went through the roof, which is absolutely incredible. And as you know, this Citibank share price shot through the roof because of the volume.
Can we talk about, to jump in, sorry, technology? And the most recent company that you were consulting with or working with, what was the technology stack they were using?
Salesforce. Salesforce was the one which most companies, well, all the companies I've worked for have used.
Yeah.
I'm a Salesforce administrator. I know how it all works. I could run it like a well-tuned vehicle. And that's really the basis of
that's like the core, but were they using, or have you had experience with any other tools that kind of sit on top of Salesforce?
No, the biggest tool we've used, obviously, unfortunately, is Excel. Because we download stuff from Salesforce into Excel, and then you can manipulate it further. I know there are tools out there which are better, obviously better than Excel, which are on top of Salesforce, which does this stuff. But generally speaking, the problem I've had is that everything is required now, and to bring in new technology can take time, can take effort. And they need the information now. We need to make the changes now. Salesforce is changing, evolving as we were doing it. So we were latching onto the new editions of Salesforce. So that was moving on. Business was changing. So you needed to look at the change. The focus of the business is constantly changing. So you're really panicking, running, and trying to get management commitment to taking time and saying, you're not going to see the results for this for 12 months, but you need to invest in this software. Particularly in the software industry itself, there's no patience to wait this time. Things have to happen now. Quarterly targets have to be met, etc. So to me, that was always a stumbling block to moving on from what we had.
While we're talking about CRM, how have you historically managed the quality of the data in Salesforce?
Yes, quality in Salesforce is subject to the training and the discipline of those people who use it. Most of the companies I've worked with are made up of several smaller companies which have been merged, bought over, etc. And so the background information they have is being different. So to try and link that together so you can get history has been nigh impossible. So you're limited sometimes up to 2 years information, because prior to that the systems are so different. So first thing is training, making sure everybody knows the importance of accurate, correct data going in. Which brings us to this emotive thing about salespeople. I'm a salesman. I'm not interested in Salesforce. It's your job. I sell. I communicate. No, you don't, unfortunately, because you have to put the data in here. Which is where we come in to make sure that they put the data in correctly. And you can run programs which shows if the data is not correct and pick out. It always comes down to a number of individuals. Okay, so if you've got a sales force of 20 people, you'll find it's 4. It's 4 of them who can't be bothered because they're so good at selling that they don't have to worry.
So what do you do about those 4 people? Do you bring them into a room and explain, or
yes,
you sit them down?
Yes, it depends. It depends. So if you've got a long sales cycle, and most of your sales is to do with large corporations where you've got to get stakeholders, etc., then in those cases we sometimes give an administrative assistant two and say, this person will look after your admin. You do the top level diplomatic stuff, and we will manage the rest of it, because we can't trust the data you're giving us. If it's a small organisation with a fast turnaround time of a cycle, you get the job done. Get the job done. Just do it. I'm not interested if you're out, you couldn't get into Salesforce. I'm not interested. Do it. Because interesting enough, there's a correlation between those people who don't do it and the success is vast. On the top end, it's because they're successful and they're doing their job. On the part, they're actually not very good.
Yeah.
So you've got to train them up, make sure they're doing the job, and that's where you get your staff turnover from.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, apart from getting people to put the data in the system, how else will you get buy-in from the sales team to do something different? Do you just literally sit them down and tell them to do it?
Yeah. Okay. So it's sort of a win-win situation. Why am I doing this? Why am I buying it? What do I get from it as an individual salesperson? Well, you get statistics of where you're standing. You get our support if you're not getting enough leads. You get our support if there's a problem with the leads which you get. There's our support if there's a problem with the processes. But we have to have the information in the system for enable us to support you. And most of the time, they see it and they pick it up and they run with it. It's like having no smoking policies. We're not going to smoke in this office. Can we get your guarantee you won't smoke in the office? Yes. Okay. So we now start. We've agreed we won't do it. So they do it. They're in trouble. And it's the same thing with data quality and putting in the data. And if you can show them, if you can do some examples and say, look, here's a report we're running with Duff data because we don't have it, but this is what it points to. These are the decision support information we can get from this. If we can get that decision support, which means we can better target our market, which means we can better target our products, which means we can increase our sales side, which means we can increase your commission, can we get your commitment to it?
That's nice.
And guess what happens? Yes.
That's a really nice way of thinking about it. Like bring it all the way back to what they actually care about.
That's right.
Which is
their commission themselves as well. Yeah, and it's often say salespeople are only interested in their commission. Well, you can actually turn that around a bit further and say they're also committed to the business they're working for.
Yeah,
and that's the way you do it to get that buy-in. And then you've got reward programs. You've got the what's it called, benefits you can get if you do the job properly, and the stick if you don't.
Yeah.
So the carrot and stick work in most cases, but you need to be onto it. You need to see it. You need to have the energy to constantly watch what's going on. Because if you slip, management, the business concentrates on what management looks at. So if you take your eye off it, it will slip. It will slip. So you've got to constantly look at those KPIs, look at the vital few measures, and make sure that they are reflecting what you're interested in as your business and concentrating your efforts on.
Sure. Moving on to onboarding salespeople. Do you have any stories or experience of effective or ineffective onboarding?
Yes. Onboarding starts off with recruitment. If you recruit the wrong person, then your onboarding is not going to work too well. If your company is suffering from a slightly higher staff turnover and you're not particularly got a very good name in the market, then that will affect the type of people you're going to be able to recruit. So your starting for 10 is saying, can we recruit the people we need with the skills, knowledge, and experience which matches our company? So that's the first thing. The second thing to do is have a proper structured induction program. Similar to in schools, when somebody new chap starts in school, they have a friend. So this is going to be look after you the first few weeks while you get engaged. That's us. That's sales operations. Okay, it's making sure they've got their laptop. It's making sure that it works. It's making sure they've got their ID code for Salesforce.com. Making sure they've gone through the 3-day training course, how to use Salesforce. 3-day training course. We used to try and do it in a day. I know that bit. We used it the last couple of days worked out. That's funny. We don't understand that part. Well, we didn't use that part. So that's why you start again. Most companies only use, I reckon, between 5 and 6% of Salesforce's capability. It's a record. That's all. So it's 3 days training on Salesforce with a structured program. We print screens and explain every field on those screens what it actually means. And then we run them through. We've got obviously mock-up, so we can run them through various activities to follow it right the way through. And then at the end of it, they get a certificate. So I'm now Salesforce qualified as a salesperson, and we're going to continue to monitor them through it.
Got it.
But that's the key: is that first 2 weeks into job to make sure they've got it.
And then before that, it's actually trying to get the right people as well.
That's right, and that's a disaster. You can spend 3 weeks in training somebody up. You could tell. They say you can tell a person within the first 30 seconds. You can tell within very quickly if this person can take on board the process in which are required to do the job. And it's, as I say, it's back down to HR and the recruitment process. But generally speaking, it works. Generally speaking, if you're in tune and in the correlation with your HR, it works. Because if it doesn't, the business can suffer. If you've got 20 sales staff, I model this, so I've shown the business what happens. You've got 20 sales staff and you lose 2. That can impact dramatically on your bottom line, on the sales. And if one of those is one of your top salespeople and they leave halfway through the year, it takes us 3 years to get this back, that numbers back up. And we model this, we show it to the managers in the business, say, look, this is what will happen. So first of all, how long does it take when you bring a new person in to become competent and start making the numbers? 3 months. How long does it take after they become competent, become professional? Another 3 months. How long after that before they become excellent? 3 months. So you're looking at a 9-month cycle before you get to that level of your top 5%.
Yeah.
Which is obviously what you're aiming for. Anything less than that is less than perfect.
And on that topic, how have you historically made salespeople more productive?
The various aspects of productivity. First of all, it's their own productivity. How many meetings can they do? How many customer meetings, how many phone calls, etc.? What is their capacity within the business? And are they matching that capacity? I do 4 sales calls a week. Well, unfortunately, 4 sales calls a week is not going to make the numbers. Through our modelling, we are able to show you need to do 3 a day. Okay, for example, you need to do 3 calls a day to make this. That's 1 hour each, so it's still only 3 hours. You're working 8 hours, still got 5 hours to get where you're going, etc., whatever. So let's say you do 3 meetings a week, 3 meetings a day, and it takes 3 meetings to close a deal. Okay, so now I've got a specific number. And I will say, if you can you agree, as a salesperson, can you agree to do 3 meetings a day? Yes. Can you agree that you can, using your level of knowledge, skills, you can close the deal within 3 meetings? Yes. Okay. So if you do that, then you will make your number. We've identified that. It may be 4 meetings a day, but we've identified it. Okay. So if you guarantee to do that, we will guarantee to generate enough leads, qualified leads, for you to meet your target. Okay. So if we say in order to meet your target, we've got to give you 50 leads per week. There we are. So based on that 350 leads per week, based on the sales conversion rates, etc., we'll make the business happen. Okay.
So you're essentially getting the salesperson to agree to you what they're going to commit to in exchange for what you're going to commit to. Yes. Now those leads, are sales operations responsible for finding those leads, or is that marketing or?
Yes, it's marketing. So is marketing a customer of sales, or is it an independent function? Some of it's an independent function, but lead generation is a customer of sales as required. So if we require 3,000 leads per week, we want commitment to 3,000 leads per week. If they say we can only give you 2, I don't need so many salespeople.
Yeah.
Or geographically, I don't think they can't do it. So there's no point in me saying to a salesperson, can you do 3 meetings a day if there's only need to do 2 because we can't generate the leads for them. Okay. So that's where you get the buy-in from that side. And then you come down to that very tricky question, what is a lead? What is a lead? Is it a telephone book? There you go. There's a telephone book. Is it a voting register? Is it everybody within a certain age? Is it this? Is it that? No. So you've got to agree what a lead actually is when it reaches a salesperson. And we say it should be a qualified lead, i.e. it's somebody who will be interested in buying our product. Because if it's not, you're spinning your wheels. Okay, so most companies have a telesales function to start off with to generate interest. And only when that interest is generated does it then go to the salesperson to follow through. Other companies don't do that. They have a third party to generate a list, which then gets split up to the salespeople. The salespeople say, well, we said 3 calls to close the deal. I'm actually, I'm getting 5 calls, and even then I'm not closing the deal. So that's always a dilemma. Every single organisation I've been with, the problem has been generating sufficient leads to feed the sales funnel. Yeah. Okay. And you can't get it. And senior management have got fantastic ideas. We're going to treble our business by the year end. We're going to get 6% of the market share. We're going to get 12% of the market share before. It's all lovely stuff. It's all chest-beating stuff. But when you use a statistical information, which we in Salesforce have and we could trust, we could then go back and say, look, we could agree with your aspiration, but it's just not going to happen. Find a way to make it happen. No, we can't. It doesn't work. And all you're doing is looking for a car crash sometime this quarter or next quarter. Yeah. And then if you move forward with that, with the forecasting, and you're now going to miss this quarter because you've overstated your target, what do companies do? They start to bring forward deals from next quarter into this quarter. And how do you do that? Heavy discounts. So you start discounting, you start reducing your value, and guess what? When you get to the next quarter, where's your lead now? They're gone. So it's that sort of statistical knowledge which the sales operations team are able to provide to the business to make sure they make the right decision. Yeah. And if they don't treat the sales operations with that sort of level of business professional respect, they lose. Yeah. So that's put Salesforce actually the 5th seat at the table. But finance, technical, what else have you got? Forget what the 5 are now. All is one of them, but the 5th one is sales operations.
Okay, can we talk about KPIs? And if you had one metric or KPI to judge your sales team, if you're running one right now, what would you choose?
Okay, the biggest KPI would have to be performance against target, because that's really your target is what everything's based upon, achieving that. So your key KPI is making sure that you are reaching that target.
With the revenue, yes.
Yes, revenue. So there's 3 really. There's revenue. There's new sales, which leads to, so you've got upgrades, new sales, and revenue. Got it, yeah. The 3 together. Those 3, because that's what the business or the shareholders will be looking for, etc. So they're your number one. VFM, vital few measures as well. They're known as. So that's what we would concentrate on. But behind that is all the other aspects of the across the Scorpio network.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about the Scorpio network?
Yeah, okay. So
because we can actually find this online, right?
It's on my profile.
We will link below. Well, wherever you're consuming this, there'll be a link below to this.
Yeah, that's right. On my Facebook page, it's there. You can see this. So this was developed basically in Citigroup in Saudi Arabia when we first started to get involved in proactive selling. So the first thing we did, which is where Scorpio. So Scorpio stands for sales planning, compensation, organisation design, results tracking, prospect management, internal metrics, and operational support. Now, this start with operational support. Sales operations and the sales force is only one aspect of selling. It's got to be the whole company. It's got to be involved in selling, whether you're debt collecting, whether you're processing orders, whatever your job is in the business, you have a responsibility to generate sales. if not directly, then to the salespeople. So that last one, operational support, says we must, as a business, do everything we possibly can to support the growth. So going back to these, is the first one is sales planning. What I mentioned when I first joined you is what is the model? What can we sell? How many meetings can we achieve each day? Who can do this? How many meetings does it take to close a sale? So that's the modelling. So that's the first one, is this modelling the business. So you know, based upon the numbers of staff you've got, based on their experience, as I mentioned, the 25% new, 50% qualified, and 25% excellent salespeople. Based upon those fundamentals, you can now model your salespeople. And then it's working out how much we're going to pay them. First of all, in the basic and commission, you've got to work that out correctly. Otherwise, you'll get silly situations where people are walking away with vast amounts of money, but not very many sales. So that's got to be right. You've got to, in addition to that, I've put these on again. And then you've got performance incentives, where that's a team. You put the team numbers together as well, so that helps them to do it. And then incentives for other members of staff within the business to generate leads for you. Organisation design, a critical aspect is the organisation design. Too many businesses act in silos, straight lines. This is us, this is us, this is us. If you look at my business card, you'll see it's got a musical note on it. I forget what it's called. And that really says, to make your business run, you have to have harmony. You can't have silos. Business has got to run in harmony, which means they've got to have the same objectives to meet. You can't have one department having one objective and another department having another, which conflicts. It ruins the business. So that's making sure that the organisation is designed for it to support every aspect together in harmony. Results tracking, this is the key. This is Salesforce. Okay, so what are we going to measure? What are we going to measure? How are we going to measure it? And who are we going to report this to? And is it going to be a statistic, or is it going to be a decision support information? And our view is, well, my view is, it's got to be decision support. We are 30% of our target so far this quarter. Big deal, so what? It means nothing unless it drives action. Is this good? Is this where we should be? Is this right for the time, or are we behind? Maybe we were ahead. So we need to understand what it means. So that's your results tracking.
Prospect management.
Prospect management, thank you very much. So where we've mentioned this before, where are these going to come from? They're going to be coming from cold calling. They're going to be coming from other marketing activities. Who are they going to come to? Who's going to manage them? How they're going to get allocated to the salespeople, etc. All those aspects of prospects need to be managed. We've got this software, etc., to manage that and to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So the last one,
internal metrics.
Internal metrics. Yes, that's everybody again. So that's saying internal metrics says if we want to grow our business, we want the voice of the customer and the voice of the employee. I can't have employees leaving. I can't do it. It wrecks my business. High turnover damages the business. So I can't have. So I need to find out through the voice of the employee that they're happy. Obviously, the voice of the customer, I can't have them leaving. So I need to understand whether my customers are happy. Are we good and easy to do business with, which is really the basics of that. How easy is it for us to do business? Everybody on this call buys stuff from the internet. How easy is it? Some companies, you can put your details in and bang, you've bought it, it's done. Others, where's that pay code? I've lost the page. Page's gone. Yeah. It says there, it's going to pass me through to payments. It didn't pass me through. I spent 3 hours. I may as well have gone to Halfords and bought this myself. So that's really there. How easy are we to do business with?
Got it. To round this all out, and as a reminder, everybody can go to a link below to download this completely. So you have, because there's a lot more detail. We haven't been able to go into everything in Scorpio. But my final question is, who has taught you the most about sales operations in your career?
I don't think it's been an individual. I wouldn't bet. I could mention a couple of individuals who have prompted me to push this through. The first one I have to say was in Saudi Arabia. The princess I can't mention the name because I think probably going to be into trouble.
Yeah.
But through her commitment to us, what's the word? Giving the authority. That's the word I'm looking for. To give the authority for us to make decisions, to do things. And so many companies restrict you from doing that. They put you in a box and you keep you in a box. But good senior executives take you out and allow you to prove it, do it. Okay, you make a few mistakes, but prove it. So that's one. The other guy in Australia, Jeff, he was the same. He was the guy who spotted me in Perth and brought me to Melbourne. In Reuters, it was a guy called Stuart. Unfortunately, he's gone now, but he was the same. Giving you the ability and the scope to do it. Get out and just do it without being held back all the time.
Got it. Well, that was a lot of wisdom in that 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any final words before we finish?
Yes. If you want a good sales operations function, seek out the decision. Seek out the shakers and movers in your business. The people who solve problems. Those people who find an issue and fix it. Okay, they're there. They may not be in sales operations now. They might be in finance. They might be in technical. But there's a spark of people there who understand the business enough, understand the process enough to fix problems. Grab those people, through whatever the size of your business you need, and put them in sales operations and free them up. Take them away from the strands. They're there. They're fixing the problem. It might be a secretary. It might be a clerk. It might be whoever. They're there. Everybody knows them because guess what? They're the go-to people. They're the go-to.
But why would you take them from where they are in the business into sales operations?
Because they can do a much broader, business-wide, effective activity, rather than be kept within that. Yeah, and they will do it. And they'll still do what they did in their own departments. Yeah. But they can broaden out. And if you get 3 or 4 people and they all work together, you become a team of excellence. And then senior management start to use them for proper business analysis, proper sales operational effectiveness, and you watch the business grow.
Got it. So that is what I want to finish on is if you're currently in sales operations or a sales leader or CEO, find the people in the other departments who are super effective, bring them together so they can have a bigger impact on the growth of the business.
Yes, exactly.
Alan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for listening to me.